I want to make this video because I want people to understand that no matter how perfect a couple looks, there should always be a continuing dialogue on how to improve on weak points and how to recognize strength points in the relationship. I think that if you feel like your relationship is 100% perfect, or if you feel like you are 100% perfect in your relationship and that all the problems are arising from your partner's issues, that there are things you need to work on. And in my past relationships, I think I've made the mistake of thinking that I was perfect or I was unequivocally right about things because I felt that the problems were stemming from underdevelopments in my partner. Personally, I like to take an account and an audit of myself in the relationship and the relationship itself and see what's going good and what's going bad. And that's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's something that we should all be doing. I'm just going to jump into the first one. And the first one of the ones that is definitely one of the biggest things that I'm personally trying to work on and have been trying to work on for a few years is my balance between work and relationship, because I love work. I'm so passionate about work, and I just have this huge work ethic built into me just from the way I was raised, and it's just natural for me to work a lot. It's not supernatural for me to be in relationships. I haven't had huge amounts of experience in relationships, and it's not something that I have like a natural thing for or a knack for, so it's something that I need to work on. I find that I'll very easily get 100% enthralled in projects, so much that everything else in my life I kind of forget about. And for an example is sometimes I'll get so enthralled in maybe 2 or 3 different projects that my mind is just consumed thinking about those, and I'm just trying to plan my whole schedule out for those things, and I'll know, multiple weeks out in advance that an anniversary is coming up or Valentine's Day is coming up, something like that is coming up. And even though I have enough time to plan and schedule that into my calendar, for some reason I prioritize the projects that I'm doing my work more than I prioritize the relationship. And I think it's because I know that the relationship will continue, and I know that Sammy loves me, and I know that everything's going to be just fine without having to put that effort in there while the projects need to be finished. And that's a flawed way of thinking, because I can very easily balance it by prioritizing all the events the same and making time for each one of those in the schedule, because there's always time for everything. It's just a matter of scheduling it correctly. So this one, a lot of you might be able to relate to on one side or the other, but I'm an odd mix of introvert and extrovert. I absolutely love to be around people, and I gain this huge feeling of positivity and energy from it, but I also really relish my absolutely alone time. I mean, completely alone with silence and nothing but my thoughts to accompany me. I really like that. And I think one of the things that I'm learning is that I need to convey that more clearly to Sammy, to my partner, because I find myself waiting for opportunities to get alone time without actually communicating why I want alone time. So I'll wait for like an event or an expo or a trip to happen, and that will be the time that I have that alone time. But instead, by communicating with Sammy, I can actually just carve out alone time even while she's still here with me. All it really takes for her to accept it and not be offended is to communicate openly. And that is one of the hugest problems that I've had in all of my relationships, is communication. It might sound a little bit cliche, but communication is a huge weakness of mine in a relationship. And it seems weird, right? Because you might think, I'm pretty social, I'm pretty good at speaking on camera and at events and stuff like that, so communication shouldn't be an issue. And communication in terms of opening up about emotions or showing affection, that is not something that I have an issue with at all. And I'm sure none of you guys are surprised about that. But the thing that I do have an issue with, it's just something that I just naturally do, and I don't know why, it's something I need to work on, is communicating about something that is a small, very small issue that is just sprouting. Something that's so small that what I'll do is I'll rationalize that because it's so small, I can talk about it in the future sometime soon. And I'll end up pushing it off for so long that I allow the small little tiny issue that I could have just bring up in the first place, I'll allow it to grow into something that actually gets a little bit of roots, and it makes it a lot more difficult to pull that issue out and to talk about that issue once you've let it become something. And the last thing that I need to work on myself, a weakness of mine in this relationship, is that I all too often apply my values, my morals, and my goals to my partner. And I also do this to my friends pretty often. And this is something I know, but I'm still working on actively. Now, I think it's great to have similarities. I think it's great to have shared values, beliefs, goals. I think all that's really awesome, but it's not necessary. Definitely not necessary on all fronts. And I think all too often my brain gets kind of jumbled and confused because I get 100% enthralled and just captivated in a project, and my thoughts are consumed with it all the time. And I kind of put my partner into a box where if she's not necessarily on that same exact wavelength at that moment, where she's thinking all about that project I'm working on, sometimes my brain will kind of have like wires get mixed, and I'll fault that person for not being on top of it as much as I want them to be with this project, when it's not even their project in the first place. And again, I think that's just my separation between work and relationship is something that I need to work on. These are some of the faults and some of the weaknesses that I've identified in myself that I would like to work on in this relationship to make it better. By no means does this make me, scared of like the value of our relationship. It doesn't make me scared of what people might perceive about a relationship, because I think that in a good relationship, in a perfect relationship, things should never just be okay and no one's ever looking at what they're doing or how they're acting in the relationship. I think that if you truly do care about the relationship, just naturally, like subconsciously, I start to analyze these things because I want to do my very best. And maybe it's just part of me and how I operate, but I always try to do my absolute best in things that I am passionate about. So it tells me that because I want to analyze and find out what I can do better, I'm passionate about this relationship. And it makes me feel stronger and more confident about the relationship, operating from a place of not being blind, not just going forward and not knowing what there is to do better, but instead I now have like these things that I can actively work on each day to make better, and that makes me feel like I'm not operating blind. The whole point of this video and the point of my channel is to be transparent and to show you guys different situations and different things that I learn, and really just try to share my life in a way that I can show you the things that I've found that have made my life better and have made me operate better and have improved the quality of my life. So I'm hoping that from watching this video, you can kind of see like, oh, okay, cool, man. I think maybe one or two of those things I also need to work on. And you know what? Maybe tonight I'm going to sit down and think about what are some of the things that I wish I was doing better and I could be doing better if I started identifying them. So in that way, I'm hoping that you guys can get to know me and Sammy a little bit better, but also, use this content to be able to better your own life and your own relationships. I really appreciate you guys coming in here and showing support on these more creative projects. Seriously, I don't always have time to do these kind of things, but these are the type of things that I really want to do. So I appreciate that you guys, give the upvotes and comments on this kind of stuff. Make sure that you follow my girlfriend, Sammy. I'll put her channel below in the description. And subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Team Beyond the Week, CT.
Lift heavy or die, MIRIN, motherfucker.
Team Beyond the Week.